So, you excuse me, coming out of nowhere with the video, but I wanted to take a moment and pause and just kind of share some of my thoughts about this place of awareness right now. First of all, I want to thank you for clicking and tuning in. Second of all, I'm going to try not to look at myself. Third, forgive me if this conversation makes no sense. I just want to flow right now. But the last few weeks to a couple of months, not even a couple of years, I'm finally just deciding to share this because it helps me continue to evolve and also find people of the same awareness. But one of the things that has been occurring is that, one, I don't relate anymore to the Transman label. I don't relate anymore to the man label. I don't relate to the transgender or transsexual label. And that's on many levels, but at the same time, it's used in a way to communicate a history. When I say I am transgender, that denotes that I came from one place in my identity and physical body, and I am now in another. And to me, that's all it communicates. I mean, I believe it communicates a lot more, but within the context of the frame and wiring that we have in our society, that's all it means to me. That I started one place, and now here I am. And now I feel like let's continue to evolve forever. Because I'm now in a place where I don't have gender confusion. Really, it's acceptance. And I was thinking the other day, transgender, transsexual, genderqueer, gender fluid, and then I just thought, what about gender natural? And I guess that's kind of an extension of gender fluid, because to me, I do feel more fluid as I've begun to evolve, as I've begun to accept myself more. I feel fluid. I feel very male and masculine at specific times, and in other moments and periods, I feel very female and feminine. But when I start to think about the ways in which these are in action, there's multiple layers. There's layers. It's not just in the presentation, the way I move my body, the way I dress myself, or the way that I talk. It's in how I feel, how my energy feels. Where do I feel myself to be on this scale, on this spectrum? And as I continue to evolve in parts of my personality, the more I accept my femininity. Whereas before, femininity was a very difficult place for me to be in. And it came from being vulnerable in my masculinity, being myself. It came from being vulnerable and being hurt by those attuned to the frequency of femininity. It came from my femininity and having a lack of harmonious communication with myself and interaction with myself. And over the years, I guess I sort of developed these sorts of viruses in different parts of my body and in different parts of my mind and in my speaking and in my actions and in my unions with other people. And as those things started to develop more and more, certain characteristics started to develop, which I will again repeat, it was mostly in my mind. I remember when I first started looking into the internal experience and expansiveness of transgenderism or transsexualism. I was about 16, and then again I started to research again when I was 18, and the overwhelming dialogue was in the wrong body, this gender dysphoria, bodily dysphoria, and a lot of people spouting hatred about themselves. And I'm not saying that everyone who has gender dysphoria has hatred, because it's not always the case. Everyone experiences themselves differently. But what I saw overwhelmingly was that there were a lot of people who just could not vibe with their natural selves. They couldn't get with the sounds, the impulses, the rhythms. And that's something I realized as a characteristic of my feminine reality, my female reality. I had a lack of harmonization with the rhythms of the female personality. Now, I'm not saying female personality as in there's this one set behavior of female or femininity. I'm saying the rhythms and laws that that femininity and femaleness vibrate to, that they interact with, that they move to. I feel completely different inside and out when I'm not on testosterone and I am menstruating than when I am on testosterone and I'm not menstruating. I feel like two different people almost, because my body hormonally and psychologically is very different. There's a different climate in here. And so different things are happening which affect my emotions and my thoughts and my actions and my rhythms in a different manner than if I'm flowing with the feminine nature that lives inside me. But over time, one of the things I started to do on myself, because I had so much dysphoria regarding PMS and the monthly cycle, I started to meditate while I was on and connect to it. And literally in my meditations, I started to experience the sounds of the ocean, the flow, the tides, the coming up, the washing down, coming up, washing down, and the moon. I started to experience this different kind of energy that prior to that time, that moment when I started to want acceptance and start to embark on that journey, I was completely running away from, and it caused so much dissension inside of me. So lately, a lot of my conversations have been about unpacking my fears of femininity and unpacking the burden and weight carried on my body, on my heart, in my mind, in my speaking, in my actions, by carrying masculinity. Because although it provided me a certain shield of comfort, that provided me a certain level of safety in my interactions with people, it also provided me with a certain kind of vulnerability that I couldn't necessarily come in tune with myself. And I wouldn't speak up for the feminine parts of myself. And I allowed those feminine parts of myself to be aggravated and violated because I didn't give her a voice. I didn't allow her to be active. And it's taken a lot of time. It's taken a lot of introspection and forgiveness of myself and others for their actions, because I realize a lot of us are just ignorant. We don't necessarily want to hurt people. We don't necessarily want to hurt ourselves. But we just sometimes lack the understanding and the courage to voice ourselves for situations and moments in which we were once opinionless. There's come many times where I have been violated by people, and I don't realize it until after, when I'm like, I don't like the way that felt, and I don't. And a lot of times I didn't know how to navigate that, to come back and say, hey, when you did this to me on that day, in that moment, I felt violated by you. But it's very encourageable to be able to, at any point, start to have that understanding and start to reoccupy that space and that place of energy which was once given away. So, again, I apologize if my conversation is not linear, but I'm just trying to unpack things right now, and this is helping. But what I realized was that masculinity, to this point, I'm realizing, has been a shield, because my femininity has been coming out more and more, but I've been having hesitance expressing it. It was like the first time I bought skinny jeans. I was afraid that my family and friends would think I was confused or going back. And I didn't want to lose that understanding that they had of me at that time. And I thought it's going to be difficulty navigating this. In fact, it really wasn't. Yes, there were questions. Hey, are you what's going on, because I did start to present a little more feminine. My clothes were fitting. I was dating a man by that time, and for them that was different because I had been a masculine lesbian for most of my dating life. Is that the cat at the door? It is. It's so cute. He's probably gonna come in here and cuddle with me, but I don't have time to do that. But it started to occur to me that I was still using masculinity as a cover when I would come home and undress, and I would feel relief from taking off these butch clothing. I would look at my closet and think that these clothes are too butch. It doesn't fit me today. Yes, these clothes at some time provided some type of comfort and some type of energy, but now, existing in a different place, it made me uncomfortable because I didn't want to be read as masculine anymore. I want to be read as in between. I want to be read as fluid, as someone who has components of both. I don't want to be this square anymore, and I don't want to just be a triangle. I want to be a circle where I am both masculine and feminine, where I am all of these things, where I am hard, I am soft, I am forgiving, I am vengeful, I am all of these things, and I'm tired of, for the purpose of society, channeling just one mind when I have many. Channeling just one heart when I have so much more. So I thought one of the ways to communicate that is to not so much masculinize my body. And what I mean by that is not necessarily, to go off testosterone, but to meaning masculinize my body by masculinizing myself by my movements, my voice, my words, my actions, So I've been trying to unpack that a lot more. And one of the things I noticed was that I had changed my pronouns on Facebook to neutral. So when it pops up, I was on my father's computer and he got a notification from my page and it said there or they or something of that nature. And I thought, I feel more comfortable with that than I do he. I feel more comfortable with that than I do she. And I just went with the impulse completely. I said, you know what, I want to start using that. I want to start using gender-neutral pronouns. I actually have an aunt who has consistently been calling me them and they and saying theirs instead of he or she. And I always appreciated that. Not a lot of people can or will do that. But it just gave me a moment of reflection, and I thought, I don't like these labels. I feel more natural than I do one or the other. And natural for me means whichever one I feel like at that time. And I know a lot of people have issues with that because they want you to be this. They want to categorize and organize based on the system they've been given. They want to put stuff in order that they understand. But one of the things I was actually reading, someone posted about the two-spirit. There's an actual term for it, but I don't know the legit Native American tribe term for it. I apologize for my ignorance, but I don't know the terminology for even describing the different languages in Native American cultures. But looking into cultures that are more based on spirit than they are on such distinctive, determining languages of people's natures, where they say this two-spirit person is always going to be evolving. And because of that, they should be allowed to be their natural selves. They should be allowed to present themselves based on the spirit of the energy they are right now centered in. And I believe the same way that is completely okay to experience yourself authentically. And if that changes from day to day, that is authentic for yourself and your awareness. If it changes from year to year, if it changes every 10 years, if it never changes, that there are people who are very stagnant in their presentation and identity, that is okay. Who says I can't evolve and change away from the things I once identified with? You know, because I constantly think when I was in my mother's womb, when all of us were in our birthing parents' womb, there was no rule about how you be who you be. There was no law. There was no identity given to you. But the moment you come out and they look at your body and they say, well, this is how you live from now on. These are the behaviors you are to adopt. These are the people you're supposed to love, and this is the language, and this is how you do it. And it's amazing to me that based on my physical embodiment, you put me in places which are not natural. Not based on who my spirit and personality is showing itself to be, who I speak myself to be, who I affirm myself to be to you. No, it's my body. And I believe coming from that kind of place is not natural. So I wish more often we would take a moment to pause instead of constantly trying to overshadow ourselves with babble about who we need to be, who we're supposed to be, how we're supposed to evolve, and blah, blah, blah. Let the self show you for itself. Let it come natural. And the language will be there. You will find that space to be. If you will just allow yourself to evolve naturally. If you don't carry that weight in your conscience, if you don't carry that weight in your language, and you make a commitment to acknowledge yourself consistently, and to acknowledge that awareness in others, there is no limit to what you will be. Whether it be intellectually, whether it be spiritually, mentally, emotionally, publicly, privately, you have the right absolutely to build an entire language which does not remain consistent, but always evolves. You have the right. That was something I needed to understand. A couple of years back, someone, maybe the gatekeeper, I'll never forget you. Although you were in opposition to me, I appreciate it. Because I learned from your contrasting against who I was. And I thought, over time I learned, yes, I absolutely can change words, the definitions, the meaning for myself. I absolutely can define who I'm meant to be through the same words that you and I might use, but I can say these are what these words mean to me. We might be speaking the same language, but I come from a different dialect. And I never left that moment without taking what you said to me internally. I've been processing it for years and years and years, thinking, why can't we? Why don't we? Wait, we already do. Come on now, we black. We know damn well how we reappropriate this language given to us in order to communicate naturally. Come on now. So, I appreciate you. Mimi, the gatekeeper. But now I'm allowing myself to pause and say, yes, there are words I absolutely can and will use. And will reorder and redefine things.